Good to get started, Ryan?
Yeah, we're at about 77 attendees. We're at about half those who registered, but people I'm sure will trickle in. So we can get started here. So welcome everyone to the CMS Contractor Training for 2026. I'm Ryan McCarricker. I'm the team lead for Business Solutions section, and I help manage the software that is CMS. And who you just heard there was Jamie Lozon. He's our manager. We're going to get into all things contractor related for MLT, or sorry, for CMS this morning, including MLT, payment, change management, dispute resolution, all that good stuff. Everything that pertains to the contractor's use of CMS. For those who have taken the training before, this will be a bit of a refresher, but we have made updates to reflect some changes we've made in the system. So if you're taking it again, I'm sure it'll be beneficial for you as well. All right, getting into it here. The session will be recorded. It's already being recorded. So by attending, you consent to being recorded. If you have any questions or anything like that, they will be recorded. We're going to use it to support future training and post this training in CMS for others to observe as a video. Myself will be mainly presenting today, and we also have Eric Donahue who will be presenting the material lab testing portion, so the sampling portion, which is pretty early on in the presentation. We can take questions at the end of each module, so I'll pause for questions. So try not to interrupt during the module, but I will stop after each kind of chapter. Or you can use the chat function as well to submit a question, and I'll review those at the end of each chapter. You can raise your hand or use the chat. Virtual meetings are great for reaching large audiences, but obviously it can be hard to pay attention or get as much value as an in-person training session. But we had 150 attendees today, so facilitating that sort of training from all over the province is very difficult. So we rely on the digital presentation format. So if you have a second screen or anything like that and you're doing work, just try your best to pay attention. I know it can be distracting to get emails and stuff like that, but we hope to convey a lot of good information for you today. This is the support page. So the main support, if you ever have any questions, it's mtocms@ontario.ca. Any questions, problems, concerns, anything like that. We also issue CMS communications called CMS updates. They go to every licensed user in the system. So if you have access to CMS, you're going to receive an update. They're intermittent. Whenever we have enough information or we have new updates to disperse, we will use the CMS update and issue them to every licensed user. And then we also post them on MTO technical publications. So you can access them there at this link here. We also have an archive. So every update that I do, I transpose each item into an alphabetized and categorized archive, which is a spreadsheet. So you can filter for things at the top of the columns, or you can control find to find, say you're looking for change management updates, and it will show every change management update we've ever issued there. Our help desk is mtocms@ontario.ca, but we have a 3-tiered approach to the support. To secondary, so if we can't solve it at the main triage help desk, it'll go to KPMG and they will try and figure out what the problem is, and then if they can't figure it out, it will go to the 3rd tier, which is CAHUA, and the CAHUA engineers get involved and disentangle whatever the problem is. So this is the MTO technical publications. You're going to go to technical documents here, and then you'll see the updates posted there. Get into some general functionality here. So the CMS team recommends using desktop app. This is maybe a little changed. You can use the desktop app or the browser app. If you just type this link into your browser, it'll take you to the Kahua login page where you can log in. The browser has made leaps and bounds of improvements for stability and functionality and speed. So really you can use the desktop app or the browser app. You can download the desktop app by accessing your initials in the top right corner. You'll see your initials there. You click that and you can see download desktop app for Windows. So you can download that link. I typically use the desktop app. Actually, I'm going to fire my desktop app up right now, just while we're presenting here. So a general functionality demo. Okay. Oops. So this is the general functionality. This is the hierarchy of how everything's broken down. We have the regions here. So we have Central, West, Eastern, Northeastern, Northwest, everything else in there. And then we'll get to material sampling. So let me, oh, so that's being updated. So I'm just going to go to the desktop app here. We can use either or. Sorry, I should have had this logged in before. It just takes a minute or two to fire up in the morning. Probably slow because it's a Monday. So MTO users use a single sign-on, so we don't use a password. It uses our computer credentials, except when it makes me re-authenticate here. You can see here you can download the app this way too. Then we get in. So this is the main landing page. You can see here, this is the banner that we posted to advertise this training. We're doing CA training tomorrow, contractor training today, obviously. Up here, this is the initials I was talking about in the top right-hand corner. You can see download Kahua for Windows right there. You can go to My Settings. There's some settings in here which are important. So general, you can copy inbound emails that include inbox@kahua.com to my inbox and send copy of received messages. So when you receive a message up here, you can get a copy of that sent to your Outlook or your email. And then you can get copies of anything sent from inbox@kahua.com to my inbox in your email. I get summaries sent daily at about 9 a.m. I don't really run projects in CMS. I just do this for demo purposes. Your time zones here. You can show your project number and everything else. Your profile. This is important for CAs now with the road report to set their phone number in the direct location. So you see I have 8675309 there. And then your title, your name, whatever your prefix is. For your signature, this can be important too. So set your 4-digit PIN and you can upload a photo of your signature. And then your out of office is very important. So if you're out of office, you turn your out of office on and you can delegate to somebody else. And this means any task that comes to you is going to bounce off you and go to your delegate. So if you're on vacation or you're taking the day off or something like that, turn your out of office on and it's going to bounce tasks off of you over to somebody else. And then you don't have to manually delegate them or wait until you get back to a bunch of tasks. Over on the left is all your apps. If you see this, you can right click. I have unpin here because I've already pinned it, but you can pin any common apps that you use to the taskbar here. So these are common apps that I end up using to diagnose contract problems. Right here, this little looks like a dude sitting on a chair. This is your project finder, and this is the hierarchy I was showing in that in the slide earlier. So you go to Ontario Ministry of Transportation, and then you've got some other ones broken down here. You're typically going to be at the project level, so you're not going to see this high up. But if you're at a provincial level, you would see all those. And then you can see the different regions here and how many different projects we have. We have over 2,500 contracts in CMS and 2,300 users. So there's quite a bit. And then you drill down, so say into Central region. And then this is all the contracts going back to the start of WBCMS. So you can see there's 2016 there, 2017, and then as we go down, you get into the more recent contracts here. Here's some 2026 contracts, and then you click into there, and you can access that contract. You can also favorite contracts. So if you favorite a contract, it's going to appear in your My Projects tab. You can see here, I've favorited all these ones. So these are common contracts that I use. This is going to be my demo contract for the day. So I'm going to use this one to demo things. Up here is your app finder. So these 9 little dots you see here, this is where all your apps are. You go to all apps, and you can either see them vertically like this or expand them horizontally. Now, you may not see all the apps that I see just because the access and the permission that I have as a domain administrator, but there's several contracts, or several apps here. We have over 90 apps that we've configured custom for the use of MTO using CMS. So meeting minutes, labor list, material delivery schedule, everything's there, or you can just search and things pop up there. Dashboards. We haven't configured too many dashboards for contractors. This is just a demo dashboard showing, I believe, contracts that are open or closed. And that's about it. Here's package submittals. Contractors use that, I know. Eric, if you're ready to go, you can take over and do some material sampling and testing.
Can't hear you, Eric, if you're trying to talk.
I've reset my headset. Is that working now? Can you hear me, Jamie?
Yep, now we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I just introduced myself to myself. My name is Eric Donahue, and I've been with the Ministry of Transportation for 13 or 14 years now. And I actually started as a QAO. So I do have a pretty good handle on the ins and outs of the material sampling and testing requirements within our business. And that's how I became the lead for material sampling within the CMS team. I'll just back up. Yeah, so that was here. So I'm going to give you a rundown on the workflow and sort of how a record moves itself through our system and what your expectations are as a contractor with sampling and data entry as things move through the system. So with data management, the biggest change, most of you would be accustomed to this now, the PHCC forms are no longer required to be completed in a paper form. We have moved to an entirely digital format, and there should be a version of these forms all available for you within CMS to do your sampling as required. The only thing we do still require is the SDS forms. Those must still be completed and transported with samples, and that's a transportation of dangerous goods requirement. So that's we can't have it digitally. It needs to be physically with any samples that are being transported. So you do still need to have those printed out as always, but you don't need the PHCC form to accompany it. Just the regular information on the outside of the sample bag is sufficient. And so the QA lab uploads all their test results within CMS. Everything is available to you for review within CMS as the test results come back out from the lab. The test results are issued to the contractor and the CA simultaneously, same as they always have been. Everybody gets them at the same time when they hit submit with their test results. And initially, the CA should be leaving an opportunity for the contractors to review their test results. Typically, we give 72 hours for a contractor to review and do anything that they need to do. But the CA does have the ability to action the record at the same time. So if you see something that's happening maybe before you expect it, it could be that the CA is just doing their review and indicating whether or not samples meet the contract requirements. We haven't built field testing yet. We're still waiting on some development for that. So currently, we would still have to use those PHCCs and upload those through the submittals application. And so we can create a submittal package. And so say you're doing compaction tests, you can create a submittal package for compaction tests, and then you can upload all of your compaction tests within that one single submittal package and have them all in one place where they can be available for you and the CA to review them. Non-conformance reports are all completed within CMS. There was an update to 199 F57, and so now we don't have the ability to do the challenge within CMS. So that is one thing that will have to happen outside the system if you decide to challenge a deviation. That can happen through the submittals as well. In ERS, we haven't developed it yet. The CA will develop the Excel spreadsheet, and they'll communicate those to you via INC, as they always did, with the results and any resulting pay factors that come with that. And those will be communicated within CMS to you. So this is the workflow. This is kind of the one where I feel a lot of people wonder what's happening with the records. This is probably the most complex workflow. We have a lot of other apps that are very complex in terms of the way they handle data and calculate payments and track quantities within our SOV breakdown and everything else. But the actual workflow for material sampling is pretty complex. I think Kahua actually told us this is probably one of the most complex workflows that they've built to date. And so it's nice to show everybody sort of what's happening with the records as they move through the system. And so when we start and we're taking a sample out in the field, either party can initiate a sample. There's some regional differences. Some regions prefer to have the contractor. Some regions prefer to have it be the inspector. And so we left some flexibility in the system for that. So depending on what's appropriate and what you and your CA have agreed to in terms of record initiation, you as the contractor can certainly initiate a record and put in as much information as available to you and submit it through to the CA for review. And so the CA will review it and they send it through to the lab. The lab gets the record. They take a look at it. They make sure that all the information that they need is there and they're not missing any sample data or any test requirements or a mixed design or any of that sort of stuff to be able to do the sample testing. And so then they also review the sample physically at that point when it's delivered to the lab, and they decide if there is a sample nonconformance. So maybe an underweight sample or a damaged bag, or something that would make the sample potentially untestable. So we do have a workflow for that. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it today, but there is a workflow that we can go through that allows the CA to review and consult with the QAO and determine if we want to use the sample or if we need a new sample, and that will follow you through as you go. But today we're going to focus more on what we call the happy path. So everything is going the way it's intended to do, and samples are meeting the contract requirements, and we're just carrying through. So we'll have the lab goes, then they do lab test initiation. And so that's then where they determine which samples are being used for testing, which are being saved for referee. Maybe there's some additional samples that are being placed on hold or sent to EMO. And so that happens in that stage there. And then we move through the sample testing and they send it out. And this is where I indicated before that the contractor and the CA results review happen at the same time. And this is sort of a unique function. We don't have this anywhere else within CMS where two parties can review a record simultaneously. And this is just to make sure that records continue to flow through the system. It is your responsibility as the contractor to review and indicate whether or not they meet the contract requirements. However, we didn't want records getting hung up, and that's why we gave the CA the opportunity to review them at the same time. And so from there, we do have a bunch of different closed statuses, so we can move them to a regular closed, which would just be that the sample testing is done, they met the contract requirements, everything is fine, the sample's closed. Or we can close it with an NCR. So if maybe there's an issue with the sample and you want to create a nonconformance to go with it, you have an option right within the system to generate an NCR, and that will automatically generate an NCR template for you, and you can go and fill in the information that's required from there. And then we also have a closed pending ERS function. So if we have a number of samples and we say we're doing asphalt testing and we need to get our 10 sublots in, we can sort of mark those as closed to get them out of the task list and put them aside until we wait for the ERS to be completed. And then the CA can go in and mark them as ERS complete. And you have an opportunity to review the ERS and then indicate if you want to go to referee or not. And so we haven't built referee within the system yet either. You can, as a contractor, you can select request for referee. From there, the contractor will move, or the CA will move outside of the system and have the referee testing done. And then we'll come back in with the test results and review them from there within the system. They'll attach them to the original record for you to review. So I'm going to walk you through what it looks like within the system now for you to be able to initiate and create records and carry them through the system. So Ryan did a little bit of this within the general functionality. When we go to the app section with these 9 squares, I'm showing an expanded view of it with the names beside them, but the icons are there when you have it shrunk down. We would click on apps, and there is the material testing in the center column that you can click on, or you can use the regular all apps, recent apps. You can search from anywhere to find them. So we have folders built for aggregates, bituminous, and concrete. It's just not showing in this screen. I couldn't get them all to come on in one nice screenshot for you. So many of our test codes are configured with custom applications at this point. I think we're about half. But there are some that aren't complete yet. So always check within the material specific folders first to see if your test code is available in there to do your sampling. And if not, we have built this material test MISX, so that's miscellaneous testing, that houses the other approximately half of the test codes that aren't complete yet with the full suite. And those ones we just upload PDFs of test results for everyone to review in there. They're not custom. And if you're ever looking for a test, you can search it in here. Same as with the other functionalities, you type in what you're looking for and it will begin to shorten the list for you, and you should be able to find what you're looking for. So when we're gathering a sample in the field, this is the information that we need to fill out. So we need to complete who's it sampled by, who was it witnessed by, the contractor contact. So that's who the record is going to go to when the actual test results are issued by the lab. So that one's important to make sure that you have, whether it's your field tech or project manager or whoever you want that to go to, that's who determines, or where it determines who the record will go to. And then we're going to fill out some material specific information. So here we're doing an asphalt sample, and you can see that we have a description, an AQA2 with the description that we're doing mixed properties. So we'll have to fill out some material type. You select your asphalt mix design, your JMF in there. So all of these applications are all linked. We have our mix design application. When you create that there, you link it directly to this record. So you don't have to worry about the lab finding the correct version of the mix design. You indicate right there, this is the mix that we're using, and this is what I want it to be tested against. Then we have a bunch of location and other requirements, paving dates, sublot sizes, units of measure. What item is this linked to? Maybe you have multiple paving items. You want to make sure that it's being tested against the correct item, and lot and sublot number. Security seals, probably not something that you'll be uploading as a contractor. This will be the CA who will be taking care of this, uploading the security seals in there. So that'll be the same seals that get attached to the bag and sent through to the lab. One thing I do want to note is that some of the buttons are not always 100% clear within the system. So you can see here where add security seals is just kind of blue words. It doesn't look like a typical button, say as the save and close does down at the bottom. Or they're now located up at the top of our screens when we're working within CMS. So sometimes if you do have, when you're creating a mixed design or creating a test record, if you're looking for a button to populate a table that requires data, look for these blue words because they're actually a button and you can click on them and that will allow you to proceed. Then we have a comment section on all records. If there's something that you want to add in there for your own information, these are visible to everybody as the record progresses, but you can feel free to add in anything that you want as additional information that's not included elsewhere within the record. And you're going to click Save and Close and submit it to the CA for their review. Here, I'll just show you a brief overview of what the lab gets. So when the lab is completing their test results, they're going to fill in everything. So we're going to have, our number of gyrations for this being an asphalt test. You're going to get your VMA, your VFA. So all of the regular test data that you would expect to see from the labs on any test records are all entered in here. For you to read within the record itself. And I think some of the labs are still uploading their PDF copies of the record from the lab itself, but you shouldn't need to open those. You should be able to find everything that's pertinent to the contract within the record if we're using one of these custom applications. So when the test results come to you, the test results will be posted up at the top. So this is using the miscellaneous application. So here we'll see there's just a text box and there would be a PDF attached there as well for you to review down in the references section. Or if we're using a custom application, so the AQA2s, any of those, then you have the test data within and your test results will be available for you to review. And this is the section that you're looking for here, the contractor review section that you need to determine whether or not these samples are meeting the contract requirements. And you can add any comments again, those are carrying through with you as we're working through. So this is just to highlight your options that you have available to you. So, initially you're asked, do they meet the contract requirements? And it's a very simple yes or no, or we're pending ERS. So that's, I don't know yet. I need an ERS calculation before I can say whether or not they meet. But I have reviewed them and I acknowledge that they're available to me. So we're just waiting on ERS. And so if you click yes, because the sample, everything's good, the test results are perfect, and nothing is required of you further, you'll carry the record through, or you have no available or the pending ERS. So here, when you click select yes, you'll see the different buttons at the top become available to you. We always have this incomplete results button, so that's the same as a more information. So without clicking yes, this is actually available to you. Say something is missing, the lab forgot to add the attachment, or anything there that needs to go back to the lab for review, you can use this function. Or when you've selected your yes, you can submit it through, and that sends it to the CA for them to review and determine if they agree that the lab or that the test results meet the contract requirements. Pending ERS is the next one we'll do, just because it's another easy one. So if it's pending ERS, select that, click submit, and it moves on back to the CA for them to do the same. Here's what you see if you've selected no. These test results unfortunately do not meet the contract requirements, and then you're presented with your options. Do you want to create a non-conformance report? Do you want to attach it to an existing non-conformance report, or do you want to invoke referee testing? If you click on the attach to existing nonconformance, you're presented with a list of nonconformances that are available, which is nice. You don't have to go and figure it out. Everything should be there. And if you've created a good description of it, you should be able to select it from the drop-down, and you can append it to that and add any additional information as required. And so then you'll have your submit button available to you once you've selected your option and you send it through to the CA. You have your close with NCR button if you have an issue and you want to have an NCR created. And that's what we have for carrying a record through. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see the chat and see if anybody has any questions for me.
There's a couple I couldn't answer in there, Eric.
Okay, I see quite a few. For outstanding tasks, I think that one we've covered.
On referee, does the third-party lab completing the referee also upload the results in CMS?
No. So on referee, the test results will be returned to the CA because we don't have the privacy built for the referee lab to not see the initial test results. We can't let them into the system. And so those are submitted to the CA, and then the CA appends them to the record, and then they'll click the more information button, which will send the record back to the CA or back to the contractor. And then the contractor has all the options available to them again. Does it meet the contract requirements? Yes, no, or pending ERS. Please relay above messages to CAs in bold. Some still disagree. Is this about the paper PHCC forms?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's something that you can certainly take up with your CA and your CSA while you're having any of your site meetings, or you can take it up even with your QAO and your pre-placement meetings, pre-asphalt meetings, any of those, and determine what's going to be acceptable. But generally, the direction from the ministry and CMS team is that we've created digital equivalents, and we no longer require any paper copies to be submitted. Digital is considered to be the contract record. Okay, on referee. So I see here someone noting that they're not notified via email about test results being uploaded by the lab. The expectation is that you are using CMS regularly. You're working on an active contract. You should be in there and reviewing your tasks. So you will be given a task within CMS to tell you that the test results are pending on your review the moment that those are sent out from the lab. So if you're using CMS regularly, that's available to you. And then if you're not, for some reason, maybe it's a smaller contract and you're not having to be in there as often, you can also use the summaries function, which Ryan showed in the general functionality portion. You can have a summary of your tasks sent to your emails daily if you wish. So every morning at 9 o'clock, whatever you set it to, you will get an email saying that you have outstanding tasks, and that will notify you that there are test results available for your review or any other tasks that you need to take care of. On this. CA closes or disappears from the contractor's tasks, leading to us missing records anyway, cannot be simultaneous. So no, we don't have a way. So the question here I'm reading now is, on the same note, if the CA closes the test record first, it disappears from the contractor's task list, leading to us missing a few records. And so that I don't think I was fully aware that that was happening because you still are required to review it. So I'm going to double check on if there's a way to leave that to stay, but the review will always be simultaneous. And the challenge there is that we don't have a clock within the system to say, okay, a task has been issued, it's been 3 days, now we need to just arbitrarily move it to another person because they haven't accessed it. That's not a functionality that's available. So it has to be simultaneous. But I will take that back and see if I can have the contractor's tasks be persistent so that they do remain after the CA reviews it. That's a good point. Thank you. So any test, next question, are there any plans to create printable report for the test results that can be shared with subcontractors? So any of the custom applications that we've built where they are unique to the test code, there is the portable views that are available within. that you can review. So if you click on the view button up at the top of the screen, there's a portable view of every test record available that is printable, and you can share it with your subcontractors if you want. And then anything that would be created within the MISX application is an attachment, and so those would be printable as well. When you open the test results, the PDF test results, you'd be able to print them just the same, so you shouldn't have any issues sharing with subcontractors as required. Who is responsible for creating material sample IDs? So material sample IDs are generated automatically when the record is created. So the sample number is attached. Its system just uses a regular counting system. So if we have an AQA2, the first sample is AQA2 0001, the next one 0002, and it just carries on through. So it's up to you to select the correct test code when you're creating your record, and then it's automatically generated from there. And then it is important, though, that you select the correct test code. So that is permanently attached to the record on creation. And so we don't have a way to just change the test code. The only way to do it would be to back that record out and create a new one. Unfortunately, those are hard coded in when the record ID is created, and that it has to stay saved with the record, so we can't change it as we move through. Where can we find the PH forms in the software? So that would be similar to the regular PHCCs in the view. So when you use the view function, those are not identical, but they present all the same information that are on the PHCC forms when you use that view, the portable views. Okay, I see one about working day statements. I think, Ryan, that's maybe something you're covering later. Okay, I think I've covered all the questions that I see in the chat there. I'm going to stay on through the meeting. If any other questions come up throughout, I'll be happy to review and provide some input, and I'm going to help Ryan as he works through as well. Ryan, if you want to take the screen back, and we'll carry on from here.
All right, thank you, Eric. Yeah, we're going to, let me just put, so we're on slide 24. Let me go to the end here. Do a quick reminder to myself to cover statement of working days. We can cover that quickly. Okay, we're going to move on with change management now. So change management starts with the equipment, labor, material lists because they feed into the daily work records. So you create entries and a piece of equipment, a laborer, and then pull those into a DWR and assign them quantum when you're filling it out. Once you understand how many hours they've worked, how much downtime, how much standby time, all that good stuff. For this, you have to establish your equipment and your labor list upon the outset of the contract. So you go to your apps, you go to all apps, you go to equipment lists, or you can just use a keyword search here and just type in equipment. It's going to pull up this screen. So you can create pieces of equipment ad hoc, one at a time, just by clicking new. And then filling out the asset number and all the various information. You can see the red lines are required fields. Whether it's rented or owned, this is important because when it gets pulled into the TMSP, it's going to calculate differently for that. So make sure that you choose the right selection there. But you can also, save, close, and then activate it. You can also do the Excel export import feature, which is probably much better for doing large groups of equipment, especially if you're already in CMS working on one contract and you've got an equipment list in there. You can export it and then import it into a different piece of equipment or into a different contract, and then update the asset numbers or whatever else it is. If you're using the same pieces of equipment, you don't even have to update the asset numbers. Where you're going to go to more, export, and then hit OK. That's going to pull up a save as function. You name the file down in the file name section, save it to your desktop, or your hard drive. This is what it opens up to. So there's an instructions tab that you can review to see how to fill it out down at the bottom there, or you just go to the equipment tab here. So this is what it looks like when you export existing equipment. See here rows or columns A, B, and C. You want to delete those. D, E, F, G, and H, you want to keep those, don't change those. And then I through T, this is where you're going to fill out the actual pieces of equipment and the information relating to that equipment. So you fill out that section there. Once you fill in your new piece of equipment in the new line, so you start at the, obviously you append it to the bottom. There's my new piece of equipment, a CAT 415 2020 diesel. It's owned. Its rate is $125 an hour. Its capacity, all that good stuff. The more information, the easier it is to find and pull up when you're doing a DWR. And then you save the Excel spreadsheet to your desktop and re-import it. So you come back here, click more again, and import the same piece of equipment or same spreadsheet. You choose the name of the file, is what I called it. So you select your file, hit open, and then hit OK. And this imports it. So you can see I've got my new CAT 415 2020 diesel there. And the only thing I have to do is activate it. You see everything else is active here. It's going to remain in draft until you manually activate it. You can select multiples and activate them at a time. But there it is. You have to activate it for it to show up in a DWR. Same thing for the labor list. You can search the labor list there, or you can just type in labor. The process is the same to export and import laborers via the Excel. Just make sure you fill out the type column with the generic labor types. So that is over here. The material list is for the submission and recording of any designated source of materials on the project. Is not for the, sorry, that's supposed to say is not. I always mean to fix that. Now it's finally fixed. Is not for the submission and recording of any designated source of materials on the project. It's just for materials. Oh, there we go. Material list. The DSM list section has a link to the DSM website. Users may also manually add external links. So what I'm trying to say is the materials on the DWR is not for designated source of materials. It's for materials that you use, like if you use a box of nails or some epoxy or something related to a time material change order. The material list in the system is for your DSM items. It has a link to the DSM right here. You fill out the DSM list number, the color, the unit of measure. I don't know why we need the color in there, but it was requested by the business. And then the rate and a system demonstration. So we'll do a really quick demonstration here of the equipment because I think most people are familiar with it. So we'll go here. You can see now I'm using the desktop version. It's pretty quick. So here's a CAT 550 and a 123. The make is 123. I must have been rushing through here. So we can export that, or we can just create a new equipment list or piece of equipment. The asset number, it's a big backhoe, CAT 450. It is rented, we'll say, and its rate is 127 because we get these from the 127 rates. So make sure the rate you're using in here is the current 127 rates that are updated May of every year. You can put an OPS 127 reference number, so and then capacity, gross weight, all that good stuff. You can either save and leave it in draft if it's not on site yet and not being used, or you can activate it right away. And then you'll see in a daily work record, I can immediately pull it up as a piece of equipment right here. Link equipment, and there it is. So if you're missing a piece of equipment and you're trying to do a DWR, that's how fast it is to be able to add it and complete your DWR. Any questions on the equipment list? It's pretty straightforward stuff.
I don't see anything in the chat, Ryan.
All right, sounds good. So moving on, daily work records. That's what I kind of just showed really quickly there. You're going to click new. Choosing the type of contractor is important too. Again, for the TMSP, you want to either have a prime or a subcontractor. Now you can have multiple TMSPs. So when you're doing your TMSP that we'll get to later, you want to separate your prime and your subcontractors accordingly. So you can do one TMSP for your prime, one for your sub. The subject field is to select either the change order or the compensation request to which the DWR pertains in order to link them. I know there's a lot of requests to say, I want to take DWRs, but I don't want to submit a compensation request yet. According to the general conditions, a DWR cannot exist without a compensation request or a change order submitted to the ministry or to the CA. Now, with the compensation request, there's a more information button to send it back. So if something happens and you don't know the full scope of compensation you're going to require, complete a compensation request, enumerate that fact in the compensation request that you're going to have to do more exploring to understand the full birth of compensation that's going to be required, or the full scope of what this change is going to be. And then when you know that, the CA sends it back for more information and you can edit the compensation request. In fact, you can link DWRs to compensation requests in more information. So in 1 minute, you can submit a CR, have the CA immediately click that CR back to you for more information, and it's in your control. You can edit it, you can fill it out, you can update it as you go, and you can link compensation request, or you can link DWRs to it. So if there is a compensation matter or a change to the contract when you know or ought to have known, you submit a CR, have the CA give it back to you. It's in your control, and then you can link DWRs to it. DWRs are aggregated for reconciliation based on these links. So the system uses the link to a CR or a change order to sort them. So it's not just one big pile of DWRs that you have to sift through. And that's right there. So clicking link labors or link equipment will pull up the entries just created in the previous steps. So you can link labor. Important note, the name is a required field in labors because the definition of a daily work record in the general conditions includes a name. So you have to name the person. You fill out all the necessary fields indicating whether they're union or non-union. This also informs the TMSP calculation. Materials are simply added by adding them in. So this is what I was talking about, the difference between the DSM and the material list in a DWR. Just made a note there, sorry. So yeah, so if you're using a box of nails or some lumber or epoxy or whatever it is that you have to purchase and import for the use of time material change orders, you would include it in the materials section of the daily work record. You can also add notes, and attachments can be added. Another important thing with daily work records is use the title of them to kind of sort them out and be able to pull them up later. We've had requests from like our third-party insurance recovery section and other like CSAs and stuff to ask contractors to better title the DWRs. Don't just title it 1, 2, 3, or don't, if it's DWR 23 in your list, don't just title it DWR 23. It already says that in the log view. Title it maybe the date, even though it shows the date, but title it, you know, what the work is for, who's working, what the equipment is, some way to easily pull it up later, especially for someone who isn't familiar with the job. So upon submission, it goes to the inspector. You actually choose the inspector from a drop-down as far as who it goes to. So the inspector who's actually on-site inspecting your time and material work, it should be the person that's selected in the drop-down. The inspector reviews it. They add their own numbers to it, just like they used to with the carbon copy DWR. They mark it up and say, no, it's not 7, it's 6, it's blah, blah, blah. And then it goes to the CA for final review, where the CA disposes their final numbers, and those final numbers are what's going to be pulled into the TMSP. A finished DWR will show the contractors, inspectors, and CA's numbers and comments. You can see that here. There's the contractor, the inspector's numbers, and the CA's numbers. And then same for equipment. And then material just has comments here. The inspector and the CA can't really affect the value or the quantum of the material, but make sure you're attaching invoices and receipts for the materials to support those. The amounts shown in the CA column are the final amounts that are pulled into the TMSP. So that'll be these numbers. Please note the inspector is still required to receive and retain the hard copy material weigh tickets associated to time and material work. So please be submitting those to the inspector or the CA as they arise. We'll do a quick demonstration. I know I went through the DWR really quickly before, so I'll slow it down a bit. Gonna create a new one here. So working southbound, Highway 6, chainage 12 plus 600 to 12 plus 700, ditching, additional ditching as required. You can see that would be a really easy DWR to pull up when you're trying to link it in your TMSP later. Type of contractor, so this was the prime doing it. The contract is auto-filled, the subject, here's the change order. You link it to a change order. Let's do T&M test, and then you choose the inspector. Then we come down here, we go link our equipment. Here's our new piece of equipment that we just set up. We give it some quantum, so there was zero downtime, or standby time, and it took 8 hours. It was a full day. Even though I know you guys work 10 hours usually. Labor, same thing. So there's a laborer on a rake maybe. He was union. Name was Ryan, and he worked 8 hours as well. And then there's no materials because it was just ditching. And then you can add a note if you like. You can add a note here. And if you don't want to write in this stupid little box, you can click this box over here and expand it and get a nice big box to type your notes into. And then attachments. You can always attach something, some photos or a drawing or anything you like. Save that and submit that. Oh, time is required for each note section. I have to add a time. Go back into edit mode. $8 a.m. Then it lets me submit that. So now, if I click on this again, now this is what the inspector is going to see. So the inspector is going to have to dispose their quantum for each of those here. You can see these are required fields. So downtime was 0, 0, 8. And labor, we'll agree with this one because it was pretty straightforward, 8 hours. The inspector clicks review. Then it goes to the CA for one more review. Slide this over, go 8 hours. $0.08. You can see there I got a notification that the DWR was submitted to me in the bottom right here. Then review, and that one's done. And you see the stage turns to ready for summary. So this is ready to be drawn into a TMSP. And I have to remember I linked it to change order 21 because that's how the system will aggregate it later. So, any questions on that? I think I saw some.
Brian, there was one question that came in, and it was about getting an invoice. So if they're doing a DWR and they don't have an invoice yet for the material cost, and I had initially replied, just leave it in draft, and when you get the material cost, then you can upload it to the DWR, because you can't submit the T&M change order without the DWR anyway, and we need that cost. Then the question associated is, while it's in draft, can the CA see that they've been submitted? And the concern is around submitting on, quote, a daily basis.
I don't believe the inspector or the CA can see them when they're in draft, not until they're submitted. But they can't action them until they're submitted anyway.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is the best option to submit what they do have and then create an additional one when the invoice from the material cost becomes available?
That's another option too. You could just leave the material off the daily work record, submit the equipment and labor that you know, and then once you understand the material, you submit it later, because you're in control of the TMSP process. So you're not going to run your TMSP until you know all your DWRs are submitted and complete. So you can do that too, and just let the CA know, hey, I'm waiting on invoices for this material. So there's another DWR inbound. What about where is an accident and will be paid through T&M? Do we need to issue a CR? Yes. So if you are going to be compensated for a change to the contract that requires you to do work and changes the scope of the contract, then a compensation request is required. Are we required to fill out the material rates in the daily work records? Sometimes there's a lead time. Oh, sorry, that's the one we just
yeah, I think just the last one is outstanding.
Okay, where's my mouse here? Please confirm whether it is mandatory to submit supplier invoices for the materials in order to complete the DWRs. We're currently experiencing delays. Yeah, so that's kind of the same question. Excuse me. I mean, you do need to support the cost of that material. We can't just take your word for it. But if there's a delay in it, then try and work with your CA, let them know there's a delay, and then keep it off the DWR until you have it and submit a separate standalone DWR. You can submit as many DWRs as you want, right? So you can submit a material only DWR if you want. All right. So now we're going to get into the TMSP portion of it. Time material summary for payment has been overhauled, so you can do multiple TMSPs, as I mentioned. They can be progressively paid. You can separate the prime and the sub and the union and non-union, and they can recirculate for higher DOFMA. So if you and the CA work together on an estimate for the work and it turns out to exceed what the CA received DOFMA permission to spend on it, the CA can go recirculate that for higher DOFMA and you can continue the work. Those were all limitations that we had in WBCMS, the legacy system before CMS. CA inspectors and CAs no longer complete DWRs. So they used to have to complete them as well, which was a little redundant. Now they just review them, as we just saw. Inspectors and CAs can also add DWR entries to the contractor's DWRs if they were missed. So if you guys miss a piece of equipment or a labor or something like that, the inspector can go throw it in for you. And DWRs that are linked to a CR, which then results in a CO that further DWRs are linked to, will all be pulled in. So you submit a compensation request. You take DWRs linked to that compensation request, and then the compensation request becomes a change order. You can continue to take DWRs against the change order, and all of those can be pulled into the TMSP. Contractor will generate and submit the TMSP, so it's in your control. The type of contractor corresponds to the prime sub. Selecting one or the other will only pull data associated to the type of either prime or sub. So remember, you have to dispose whether it's a prime or sub in the labor type, and union or non-union. That's where this plays into the TMSP. And then for T&M work that has both types, 2 TMSPs should be created. So you can create as many TMSPs as you want and link them to one change order to help keep things all sorted and neat and orderly. So you navigate to the TMSP app. you fill out the type of contractor and the change order. So the TMSP can only be linked to a change order at this point because it's basically the price agreement for a change order. So you don't link them to a compensation request. You need a change order to be in existence in order to complete your TMSP. And for T&M work that has both types, I'll say it again, you make 2 TMSPs. So this change order 7 has been issued to the contractor. It's paid by time material basis and is awaiting the contractor's lump sum estimate. It can therefore be selected to link a TMSP to by the contractor. So that's change order 7, time material for summary. You submit your estimate and then you can link to it. Is CMS applicable for all CMGC contracts? Sorry, I just saw that pop up. Yeah, we have CMGC contracts in CMS. Yep. Find or filter for the change order to which the TMSP is to be linked to. So we'll do this in the demo, but remember I linked them to change order 21. Individual DWRs may also be added. And then all DWRs associated to either that change order or its preceding CR will populate the TMSP grid below, which looks a lot like its originating PHCC form. You have to click save on the TMSP to populate it in order for it to calculate everything. But this is where you select the change order, and then this is where you link the DWRs. Note the materials grid has an insert button to allow for the insertion of materials that were not incorporated in the original DWRs. So if you missed this, so this is another point for folks who are saying that it's taken a while to get their invoices for materials. You can add the materials in the TMSP themselves without having to do it through the DWR process. So once you're all done and ready to get paid for the change order and submit your TMSPs, you can include your materials at that time too. When the TMSP is submitted, it's reviewed, barring any sendbacks for revision. The TMSP amount is pulled into the invoice. So it goes to the CA reviews it, and then goes back to the change order and clicks link TMSPs, and it will pull that TMSP in. All right, let's do a TMSP now for the DWR we just submitted. So I'm going to come up here and search time. Create a new one. Title it, this is additional ditching on the southbound, southbound Highway 6 location, 12 plus 600 onwards. Type of contractor, I believe you said prime. And then change order 21. Uh-oh, our change order one's not pulling up there. Let's see if there's any link to this one. There we go. There's a few change orders or DWRs, and here's the DWR we linked this morning, or just, right, it's still the morning, but just a few minutes ago. And then we click save, and it should populate with some quantum here. So there we've got 14.53 and 60 cents, plus the 15% for contractor's profit and overhead. It's got the equipment in here, the rented. Oh, no equipment. A little bit of equipment. And labor. Looks like we've got a union. So we've got the 8 hours there. You can add payroll too. So if I edit this, you can adjust the payroll burden. Oh, that's a new drop down. You have to drop it down now. Actual payroll burden, so you can go 40%, non-union, and then room and board too, you can add that. And then the equipment, you gotta drop this down, I guess. That's why it was hiding before. There's our 8 hours, so $1,000 is pretty cheap for 8 hours of ditching. Thank you. And then materials, we can add a material here and say, oh, I forgot we had to buy a specialized ditching shovel. Let's just say, save that, and then submit it. Now this is the CA's view. They can either cancel the TMSP if it's wrong, or they can review it. They can delegate it to somebody else too. That's it. Now it's ready to be linked to a change order. I don't think we have time to go through the whole change order piece, the time material change order piece, because it takes a while, but that's for the CA to set up and issue to you anyway. This is basically your perspective of the process. I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anyone want to bring up a question and unmute themselves? The material list app is for designated source of materials, and the materials section of the DWR is for materials used in time and material change order work. Said, can you please clarify what material list app is for again? All right, change orders. So they're part of the change management suite. The change management houses all commercial activities, so change orders, proposals, compensation requests, other payment adjustments. Change order process in CMS now mirrors the business. So the CA will internally create a change initiation. They use that to garner DOFMA approval, fill out all the quantum of it, the basis of payments, the supporting documentation, the estimates, the quantity adjustments, and then out of that initiation comes a change order. The change order is issued to the contractor. Once they click issue change order, the change order is officially issued to the contract, and it can't be rescinded. The contractor then submits their estimate for the work, and then the price agreement is issued after that. So if the estimate comes in higher on the change order, the CA can recirculate it for higher DOFMA approval, or otherwise issue the price agreement based on either the contractor's numbers or the CA's numbers. This is the change order grid. So if a revision is requested, a comment is mandatory. So if you're issued a change order, you can click request revision. And this is if maybe the CA forgot something or made a mistake or included the wrong item or something like that. But when you click it, you do need to include a comment right there. The tender item quantity variations section is where you input both the item quantity adjustments and the item price adjustments. So if you're doing basis of payment A, you're adjusting the quantity of an item. If you're doing basis of payment B, you're adjusting the price of an item. The lump sum section simply requires a lump sum amount to be put in, and it's right there in the total section under the expense column. So when complete, you click Submit Estimate, which constitutes the conjunctive signing of the change order and the submission of the estimate. We know the general conditions state the CA will issue a change order to the contractor. The contractor will immediately undertake the work and submit an estimate for the work. So that's you signing the change order and submitting the estimate back. So please note the desktop version provides pop-up notifications in the bottom right, and then email notifications are also sent for workflow tasks that are sent to you for change orders. Contractor has three options when presented with the price agreement. So you can request revision again if a mistake was made or something, and this is kind of meant as a negotiation piece as well. But don't just go back and forth forever. I think you're limited to doing it 3 times, if I recall correctly. You can only request a revision 3 times before the button disappears. If you accept, that will be signing the price agreement of the change order, and that will be your last step that you have to take. Or you can accept undisputed amount, which will do the same as accept, but it indicates on the file that submit a compensation request. One of the subjects for a compensation request is a disagreement with the amount of price agreement. So that's kind of your cue to say, okay, I disagree with this amount I'm being paid on the change order. I'm going to submit a compensation request. One question, can you copy/duplicate contractor quantity files? I don't think so, no. You have to add them manually each time. Change orders. So we'll run through a change order quickly here. We won't do a time material one because it takes too long. I'm going to go to my change management suite. I start with the change management shell. This is July 6th contractor training. So this would be the CA creating this, the create an initiation. So first you choose contractor that you're sending the change order to. Change order categories. So we categorize all our changes so that we can understand trends and where we are having to change our contracts for and what magnitude we're having to change them for. We run reports on change orders. I've got a big massive report with thousands of change orders and all the categories. And then we work with our audit section to understand, okay, we're having a lot of design issues for access and staging. Can we address this in design? Can we try and better ourselves that way and save time and money in construction? Change order type is either changing the work, additional, or $0. 99% of the time it's going to be changing the work. So this is important here, this note. If I click this note is going to be added to the change order. If I unclick it, it will not. So the CA is to consider if an adjustment to resources, acceleration, weekend work, etc., is to be included in the price of this work if the contractor is expected to perform this work without an extension of time. So this is that old method on the change order PHCC form where you used to scratch out whether the contractor could apply for an extension of time or not. And this is basically saying we don't have time to extend the contract and let you incorporate this scope of work through an extension. We need to squeeze this extra scope of work into the existing amount of time because we can't push deadlines. Maybe you have a milestone to hit, an interim completion date, whatever it is. So that's what this note means. So if you see this note clicked on the change order, that means the contractor shall perform the work of this change order within contract time by an adjustment to or additional resources and hours of work as required. So if you see this, that means you're expected to accelerate. We expect your price to be higher because we can't allow an extension for this work. Here you describe the scope of the work. And then basis of payment, we'll just go a lump sum for now. You can see here it pops open different sections below. So lump sum, basis of payment B pops open that. Let's do a quantity adjustment and a lump sum. So I insert a line, choose my item. We're going to adjust some super pave here. Only one subcode because this was a migrated contract, and I'm going to adjust it by 1,000. What is it, tons? Yeah, tons. Already got 2.3 million of asphalt in here. And then lump sum, let's say it's for traffic control. For $500. So I'm going to submit, comments is required for my categories as well. Add a comment there and submit. So now this is ready to go up for DOFMA. Before I try and issue it, I don't even have the option to issue or create a change order. I need to initiate DOFMA. That's our internal delegation of financial management authority. It basically gives you permission to adjust the value of the contract. Total value is 162,000. Absolute value is 162,000. You can see here the DOA status is in review, so it's out for review right now. We don't have permission to spend this money yet or change the contract. Here, this is what the approvers see. And it goes up the chain. and you'll be able to see afterwards a list of approvers. While the CA and the ministry can see it, you guys can't see it. Otherwise, you would see our estimate, basically. One more, it should be approved now. There, so now you can see the DOA status is set to approved. The total net value of the DOA status is 162,500, and you can see the list of approvers, when they approved it, how high it went. So this is useful to us. Now I'm going to create a change order. So now the change order is created. You will notice when I save this, all the values are wiped. So my adjusted quantity is back to 0 and my lump sum is set to 0. Otherwise, we would be giving you our estimate, right? That's our estimate in the internal initiation. This sends you a blank change order basically and says, hey, how much do you think the SuperPave 12.5 FC2 needs to be adjusted by? And what do you think the price of the traffic control is? So I'll issue this change order. This is the CA clicking issue, and now it's officially issued to the contract. There's no pulling it back. And this is your options here. So you can request revision here to send it back if you have some questions or some edits or corrections to make to it. Or otherwise, you can submit your estimate. It won't let you submit a $0 estimate because $0 change order has to be selected. So you've got to fill it out here. I think we said 1,000 tons, 500 bucks. Submit that back to the CA. Then the CA reviews it, says, okay, looks like your estimate's in line with mine. That's good. Status is open still. I'm going to issue the price agreement. And then you have these options: accept undisputed amount, or request revision. So we'll just accept it for sake of ease. Now, there's one more step for the CA to create transaction. This puts it onto the transaction list and basically queues it for payment. So I'll save this. And now it's done. So now it's on the contract and I can pull it up in a contractor quantity. So if I go to CQ, go to insert, go to my items, come all the way to the bottom. There it is right there, July 6th contractor training. I can prorate it. I can do up to a payment of 1 for the lump sum amount, or I can do 0.5 for half that $500. I'll do a period start, period end. And then that's it. Subcode. There, and you just submitted a contractor quantity for that change order. Okay, can the contractor dispute the checked point, not allowing an extension of time? You can, yes. You can always submit a compensation request for time. There's nothing that stops you from doing that. But it's more of a communication piece to say it's expected of you to try and accelerate this work. Like, say we've got a staging milestone that we just can't miss because we've got to hit it by November, or else the staging for the entire winter is screwed and the plows won't be able to do their job. But we have to get this work in, then it's going to require acceleration. So that's what that note is indicating. All right, we got about 25 slides left, folks. Change proposals. So when filling out the change proposal grid, please enumerate all additions and subtractions from the contract. So this is not entirely true. So you enumerate the subtractions by filling out the original. And let me make a note. By the original bid cost and the new change proposal cost, which is calculated by what you add in the items grid. So the system calculates the difference between the two. So your original bid cost could be 1,000, and my new bright idea for approaching this work in a cheaper way is 500. So it's a savings of 500. And then you upload this. This is an example of where you do use the PHCC form to attach to the CP, because half of it is like a guide on the change proposal process itself, and the other half is a nice guide that lays out all the changes, the item adjustments, and everything else you need to perform to achieve the change proposal and approach the scope of work in a different, cheaper way. So original bid cost is the total sum of all items required to complete the work. Items is the list of all new items that will accomplish the work, and then estimated total savings is the total savings of the proposal, not just the contractor's portion. So the CA is going to need to use your PHCC form to break down and calculate the estimated net and absolute value for DOFMA. So that's why it's important to attach that. The step after you submit it is they review it and input the estimated net and absolute value for DOFMA, get DOFMA approval, and then create a change order. And if that change order is equal to or less than what the DOFMA approval is, it doesn't have to itself cycle up. It's going to carry the DOFMA approval over. That's right here. So the CA recommended total net value and absolute value is inputted by the CA. So it's important that they get all the information from you required. You're basically putting in the tombstone information to say, here's how much it's going to cost me right now under my current tender item costs. Here's how much I think I can do it for. Here's how much we're saving. That's really all you need to calculate. Except in your attachment, you need to break it down in your attachment. Then the CA uses the attachment to calculate the amounts for DOFMA. So consider this real life example. The savings is the difference between the original and the new cost of the work. This represents a full financial change to the contract and affects both the net and financial DOFMA, or absolute DOFMA, it should say. Paying the contractor's savings is also a change to the contract, so it increases the absolute value while decreasing the financial value. This is an example. So I won't go through this. This is an example that we have from a memo that we use internally to try and train folks on how to do change proposals, but we'll make these slides available on technical publications. You can download them and review this yourself. Then a quick system demonstration. We start a new one here. Staging, acceleration. Change proposal type. So alternative method. We're going to say, I don't know. Somehow that must be possible. We'll say it's originally going to cost us 500,000, and then you insert lines here. So okay, so traffic control is going to be 1 at a price of 100,000, and then barrier wall adjustments. Say we do one of those at 150 grand. And then, I don't know, excavation and milling we'll say 1 for 50 grand. And then of course I would upload my PHCC 796. I can't remember what the PHCC form is for change proposal, but it's on technical publications. I think it might be 796. Save that, submit it. Then it goes to the CA's view. The CA can send it back for more information or reject it. I don't know why they would reject it and not just send it back for more information, but maybe the ministry is just not interested in the proposal at all. Or they can initiate DOFMA. If they're going to do that, they've got to come down here and calculate the DOFMA. So we'd go, okay, the savings is 200,000. The original bid cost is 500. We're coming down 200,000. So that's 200,000 net plus 100,000. So the net would be 300,000. Oops, not 3 million. And the absolute would be 300 million or 300,000 as well. So that's an easy one to go through, but and then initiate DOFA, and I won't go through all that with you again. We'll get back to the presentation. When an OPA PQP is issued after the work is completed, can the date range for the work be prior to the date the OPA PQP was issued? And if the disputed quantity is not resolved until the following pay period, will the new payment pull in the OPA in an earlier period? So when an OPA PQP is, so let's just say when an OPA is issued after the work is completed, can the date range for the work be prior to the date of the OPA? I believe it can. So the OPA is included into the invoice based on the invoice's date range. So all you would have to do is backdate the invoice back to the day before the OPA was processed to include it in your invoice. For a PQP, it's based on the reconciliation because it's something you post against. So you post against a PQP item adjustment and then reconcile it. And the dates of that reconciliation must fall within the dates of the invoice, as you all well know. So that's how that would be included. So as long as you play with your dates right, which are in your control, then you should be able to include it. When entering unit rates for rented equipment, which is usually priced in day, week, month, is there an option to select day, week, month rent? I don't think so, no, because the way the time and materials are paid is hourly. So regardless of how you're paying for the rented equipment, you're going to have to prorate that and break it down to an hourly rate in order to charge the ministry for it. Good questions. All right, contractor quantities. So contractors submit their quantities through the Contractor Quantities app once per week. I know that you don't do it once per week generally, but the general conditions GC 7.01.06 actually require you to do it on a weekly basis to facilitate reconciliation. So that is a contractual requirement. The grid's very brief. You just have your from to periods, your change orders if it's, oh, sorry, that has been removed. Yeah, disregard this. I can change that. Let me make an edit to the slide. Contractors' quantities, and then references, which are just attachments. So if you submit your quantities throughout the week, it makes things very easy. You've got the item number, the subcode number, and the payment quantity. So, you know, as you well know, the longer you wait, the more quantities you're going to have to do at once. And it can be an arduous task to add so many items and subcodes, especially on big contracts where you're submitting 100 items at a time. I know it can be a pain in the butt. So doing it incrementally throughout the month and throughout the week helps you. Except, you know, you need time for that, which I know time is a commodity not well afforded to contractors in the summertime for sure. very brief on contractor quantities. Is there any questions on it? Because I didn't cover too much of it, but I think everyone's mostly familiar with it, and it's very straightforward. I've got CQs pinned down here on my taskbar, so I'll create a new one. One thing that might help, you pick your from to dates. I'm just doing mine today, but you would reach back to, okay, let's say you're doing the previous week. So you're doing June 29th to July 3rd. One thing that helps here, go to the big screen and you can add a number of lines. So if you say add 10 and then click insert, it'll insert 10 lines. So you don't have to keep clicking insert over and over again. Then you just choose your item, your subcode. Here's a new subcode that I created under basis of payment B. We'll choose that one. And then payment quantity. So remaining subcode's 12. We finished this subcode. Let's post 12. That's all there is to it. Then you can delete these and submit. Okay, into reconciliation now. Very important. So the CA prepares a reconciliation and issues it to the contractor. The contractor acknowledges the items. This box is automatically ticked. I don't know if anyone remembers WBCMS where you had to go and click every single one automatically or manually, but now it automatically auto clicks it for you. If you don't acknowledge an item, it's not going to be pulled into the invoice. And that's about it. So I'll show it quickly. I also have reconciliation pinned here. Let's reconcile that quantity that we just submitted through a contractor quantity. So we'll go the same period, June 29th to July 3rd. You choose the contractor it's going to go to. So if you have more than 1 PM on a job, a CA can choose who it's going to be sent to. Then you click save and the system does the rest. So there's my removal of piled boulders, subcode 2, quantity of 12. Looks good to me. This is the CA doing all this, and then I just submitted it to the contractor. Now this is the contractor. You can see the stage or status is pending acknowledgement. And I'm going to acknowledge this. That's it. Now when you see it's reconciled and this one's paid, the difference is this one's reconciled and ready for an invoice. And when you draw an invoice and pull it in, it will switch to paid to show. And you'll get an invoice reference on it. So you can see this one is paid on invoice 54. You can even click the hyperlink and go to invoice 54. Now we'll cover invoicing. Okay, invoicing is mostly automated based on other administrative actions taken upstream in the system. So approved change orders that you post against, processed OPAs, claim payments, settlements, and accepted ERS adjustments that are completed in the ERS app, which we don't have yet. Functions much like WBCMS does. You have to set the cutoff dates. You click generate and it aggregates all the reconciled quantities for you. And then the invoice produces a complete report with sections A through D. So the reconciliation process is really important too. I should have covered this previously. It's our notice of non-payment as per the Construction Act. So the Act states that the owner shall furnish the contractor with a notice of non-payment for any quantities submitted by the contractor that will not be paid. So if you submit to me 12 and I'm only going to pay you 10, I have to give you a notice of non-payment for that. And that's what the reconciliation is, because it shows what my quantity is, what your quantity is, and what is going to be paid. So that's what the invoice is going to pull in. You got your section A here. You can fill out where is it here? PBS or no, somewhere. Oh, maybe we've added it since I took the screenshot, but there's a invoice ID. Oh, here, service provider number. I think that's it. And then section A. So this is subject to holdback. You see there's $8,000 in tender items being paid on this one. Section B, not subject to holdback. Section C. So let's see if we can pull in that reconciliation that we just completed. Invoices in contract management. To progress, obviously if you're doing holdback release, you would drop this down and choose holdback release. Invoice is probably the slowest running app we have just because of how complex. Remember Eric mentioned this morning, it's not the most complex workflow, but it's the most complex as far as calculations go. The only thing that I can see being more complex is ERS when we build it in. So set the cutoff dates to the same as the reconciliation and click save. You can see it's thinking down in the bottom left here, thinking long and hard. Then I click generate. So it's blank right now because I haven't aggregated anything from the reconciliations yet. You can just see previous amounts that I've paid. So I'm going to generate. Oh, it's running pretty quickly today. I didn't pull in that item though. Oh, here it is. Oh, maybe there's not a cost to the item because I created it. But it's showing your contractor quantities there. It shows any claim payments, any liens, any OPAs. This is handy. OPAs are a common piece of invoicing, obviously, so it lists all the OPAs categorically, and then you can click on them and hyperlink to them. And then, yeah, you've got all your different sections here. It looks better here in the white than the black one that I had before with black letters. In the slideshow, it doesn't really show very well, but yeah, here's your OPAs, your incentives, your disincentives, all that good stuff. All right, I don't see any questions. Information and compensation requests. We're coming to the end. So IRs are fairly basic. There's a mandatory subject field. Try and use the subject field accordingly. Don't just call it IR 0001. You call it for the subject matter that you're actually submitting for. You select the reason, so a situation that is different than represented in the contract, that the contract requires additional information, the contractor believes the contract documents are, I think it says obscure or something. You select fill out the details section, hopefully add some attachments because attachments are always very useful for IRs. And then responses to the IR are provided within the same records. So they're not responded to with an INC, they're responded to within the IR itself. So the contractor receives the IR back in the workflow with a response. Compensation requests are very similar to information requests. Oh, where's my picture? I guess it got deleted. You fill out the details section, which is mandatory, or the subject section is mandatory, sorry. Responses to CRs are also provided within the same record, so no INC required. Change orders that come out of the CR are issued by the CA and they carry over DOFMA. So if you submit a CR for 100 grand, the CR goes up for DOFMA approval, gets issued to you. Then the CA creates a change order out of that CR and the DOFMA is carried over so they don't have to circulate it twice. Then you have the option to either elect provincial office claim upon response or dispute resolution or accept it. So let's skip the IR and just do a compensation request, which I also have pinned over here. We'll go new. So call this July 6th contractor training. Distribution list is like a carbon copy. It's basically CCing anybody you want on the workflow of it. So they'll get an email notification every time the workflow changes. And there's everyone in the system here. So you can link basically anybody that you want. Here was an unresolved change order price negotiation according to GC 310. So this is, remember the undisputed or accept undisputed amount button in the change order price agreement workflow stage. This is what you would choose if you disagree with a price agreement. You'd fill this out. You choose the change order that you're disagreeing with. So there's our change order 21 again. And then you insert compensation lines. So traffic control, labor, 1. I'm just keeping it general here. And it tallies it up here. So you're asking for $90,000. Upload any pictures or references you have to support it. Save, close, and submit. Then you'll see the CA has, I don't know if you've ever heard CAs complain about the compensation request review report, the CRRR. They've got to fill out all this, which is usually pretty detailed because we request it to be detailed, especially because if you go to adjudication on this, it's the claim section only knowledge of what the actual issue is. Oops, 900,000. Send for CSA review. So that's the CA filling it out. Then it goes to the CSA. And the CSA also puts in their recommended because the CA and the CSA may recommend something different. Or the ministry and the CA may recommend something different, I should say. So they can change this and say, actually, I think it's only 80,000. And then the record would show that the CA recommended 90 right here, but they're only going to do 80. You submit for approval, then it goes through DAFMA. So then I do my approve and my pin again. One more. And then I can issue this to the contractor. And we'll just show the buttons that are available to you. Oh, rationale and quantum. I need to provide that. So you have acknowledge, which will complete the CR and allow the CA to create a change order, request adjudication, or create your initial notice to claim. And that's going to create your initial notice, which processes over into a different app. Then you fill out your initial notice here. Claim reason, scope of work, date of occurrence was today. Claim amount was 10,000 because I asked for 90 and you only gave me 80. Time impact, and then you submit that and it goes to the head of claims. That's that. I don't see any questions in the chat. Statement of working days, I do cover it, so I didn't have to make a reminder to myself. Beautiful. In an effort to better track contract time, statement of working days are now required for both working day and completion day contracts. I think this is a little known fact that isn't being enforced very well, but it is a policy change that we had. Claims section is interested in understanding the critical path operations on a day-to-day basis. It's very valuable to them, and the statement of working days requires you to fill out what the critical operation was for each day. So it's regardless of whether it's a working day or a completion date, these should be getting done for both types of contracts. But regardless, that's more for the CAs than the contractors to worry about. Statement of working days app won't affect contract time for completion date contracts. It only strives to record the controlling operations. So, I guess that's all I covered. Do you want me to do a demo of statement of working days? Let's do a quick one. So the statement of working days claws down from the total amount of working days on the contract. So we had originally 100. We've added 68 days through compensation requests for a total of 168. Days charged to date, we haven't done any. There's a couple that have timed out here. One's acknowledged, but I guess I haven't done any yet. So you name it, then you do a period start date. Name of the contractor will be me, and then save. And then it populates a grid for you to fill out. Or for the CA to fill out, I should say. Here's where you've got the controlling operation that you fill out each day. It's an annoying little box that gets in the way of clicking. You can add CA comments or remarks, whether it was a working day or not. So Saturday, Sunday was not a working day. Maybe it rained Wednesday. How is statement of working days done for completion day contract? It's the same, Terrence. It just doesn't draw it down from the total number of working days. There would be no original contract time here. It's just for the sake of filling out the controlling operation and sending it to the contractor for acknowledgement, and then claims can use that later in a claim review. Submit this, and then it goes to the contractor. And the contractor can either request a revision again, just like the change order, or acknowledge it. That's about it. CPRs. So it functions much like the WBCMS version. The workflow corrections there have been workflow corrections to the appeals process. The Secretary Qualification Committee receives a notification for any rating entered below a threshold. So currently that threshold is 65. New engineering appraisals for CA will be in there as well. So our performance appraisals for engineering, the Secretary also receives notification for any score less than 3. So that's our CAs and our engineering service providers. Oh, that was my note to myself. Embedded learning videos. So we have in CMS, if you right click on the case app, so open CAIS, it was the most general app we could think of. We've embedded videos in there. So you click on that and click videos and documentation, and it'll pull up training videos. That's where we're going to put this one as well. So if I open the case, and then it opens up here on the left, right click that, videos and documentation, and you've got all our training videos in here. So here's contractor training that we've done previously. Payment training, I recommend reviewing this. This covers everything from payment, like from tracking quantities in the field up to the invoicing, change orders, all that good stuff. There's general functionality training for those who are brand new to the system. And you can even review the CA training if you like to see what things are like on their side. I know there's some CAs reviewing this training just to see what it's like for the contractors. So please review that. And then also the MissX app. If you search MissX, we know this is for sampling. That opens down here. Where'd it go? Oh, right here. Videos and documentation. There's Eric does a great training session for sampling here. Everything you need to know about sampling in CMS. So you can review training there as well. But this was just kind of a general overview for contractors.
We have one
So
in the Mix Design app too, Ryan.
Oh, we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. CMS Material Lab Testing. Great. So there's lots of training videos and resources in there. If you go to technical publications, technical documents, CMS has its own tab here. This is all of our user guides. So you can see down here, CMS user guide. We've got almost 100 of them, one for each app. I don't think there is an app without a user guide. General functionality and system navigation training, pre-go live session. So even though it's pre-go live, general functionality hasn't changed very much. Here's contractor training, CA training, some tip sheets. Remember I talked about the archive before? So CMS email updates Excel summary sheet. Let's download that. And this is everything that I've ever issued as a CMS update. You can see there's how many lines here? Over 300 lines, 300 entries, and they're all dated to show you when they came out. And then you can filter up here. So you can just look for change management or your payment. Payment's a big one. There's a lot of changes to payment or a lot of pieces of information to payment. So you can see a reminder not added or input quantities directly into the invoices, an issue with the reconciliation validation that prevents users from reconciling tender quantities above the current contract amount was found. So bugs that we found, bugs that we fix, pieces of information, tips, tricks, whatever it is. But that's all we have for you. So thank you. If there's any other questions, you're welcome to stay on.